The Honor 200 Lite last year was one of our favorite sub 250 category budget smartphones, and the Honor 400 Lite looks to replicate exactly that. You now get a 120Hz AMOLED display with IP65 dust and water resistance, a 5230 milliamp hour battery, and on top of that, you also get a Dimensity 75 processor. And those are some of the improvements on the 400 Lite versus the 200 Lite, but it retains that same 250 and below price tag. And the differences against the 200 Lite are significant. When it comes to design changes, the significant changes are not present here. Essentially, the only real difference you're going to find is the rear camera housing, which we'll get later in this review. But on the front though, when it comes to display, there are changes. This is now a 6.7-inch display with a 3500 nits of peak brightness, over 93% in terms of screen to body ratio. It also weighs incredibly small amount of just over 170 grams. And then on top of that, it's only just over 7 millimeters thin, not thick. That's what she said. Anyway, but the quality of the display is one of the standout features. You get really good quality. So that 3500 nits of peak brightness in HDR. Outside, you'll obviously get a better reflection of what that is in terms of its performance. But in the day-to-day use, in terms of things like just watching content, be it in a darker setting or in a lighter setting, based on the content, you're going to get some really good quality, super punchy colors. There's a really good job of enhancing those darker and richer areas. And overall, in terms of consuming content on the 400 Lite, it is a very satisfying experience. One of the significant changes versus the 200 to 400 Lite is the addition of AI and Magic OS 9. Now, one quick negative right off the bat is 35 plus preloaded apps on the 400 Lite out of box, some of which you're going to want to keep, like Google-based apps, and some you cannot delete, some you can get rid of, but it's worth mentioning. In terms of OS as a whole though, runs very well, looks super good, and in terms of its operation is no different than the flagship spec, which is sick. So essentially what you're going to get here is the full Magic OS 9 on your 400 Lite, and obviously that is really cool because there's nothing stripped out, including the AI components. So with Magic OS 09 and the AI bits, you still get all the access to things like your ability to just tap the screen with your knuckle and circle to search, and then being able to drag that into the portal as well. And they work really well. You can use this whichever way you want. You can use it with text, for example, that we're showing you here, or you can use it with images, or you can use it with screenshots. In addition to that, AI Translate also lives on here, so that if you wanted to, for example, you're going abroad, you want to directions to your nearest coffee shop, and you're in Spain, for example, you can do that and it will pull it straight across. What I would say though is you do have to go into the Honor AI settings in the settings menu to enable a shortcut to go onto your home screen to be able to access that, which may or may not be a big deal. I personally think it's not a big deal at all, but when it works very well. And generally, if we're talking about OS as a whole in terms of performance on a 120Hz panel, it works very well. Really smooth in terms of transitions, opening and closing apps, getting in and out of multiple windows, and just generally navigate around the menus is a very smooth experience. Little to no issue at all when it comes to lag or drop-offs. What I would say, if you're booting it up for the first time, allow a little bit of patience for it to fully set up and get good to go, because at that start point, it doesn't run very well. It's quite slow, but once it gets going, it actually runs very well. One of the biggest and most significant changes in the 400 Lite versus 200 Lite is the addition and the inclusion of this camera control button. Now it serves two purposes. That camera control button, we're going to call it camera control, but AI control button has two purposes. So essentially what you have here is one for visual intelligence. Now, when we got this and started using it, it actually utilizes a lot of Google Lens, well, Google Lens in its entirety, to be fair. So you can image search here, for example, against things like Nike Air Max 97 trainers, and it will find you the results of those. It will also allow you to, for example, work out maths calculations. We've kept it pretty simple here, but it works perfectly. No issue at all, and you get the results instantaneously. Of course, with this feature, you do need a constant internet connection. So offline, it will not work. It'll just prompt you every time so you need a stable internet connection. And then again, you can use it to search, for example, things like translating text in a sign or on text if you wanted to check a recipe from a restaurant abroad somewhere. So all those components make it very useful. The other bit for this particular button is the camera, of course, and that in the Honor 400 Lite is powered by a main lens 108 megapixel and a 5 megapixel ultra wide / depth sensor. And now the quality of the camera is Better than the 200 Lite, but not massively. What I would say though is saturation is on fire when it comes to photos on this particular phone. It's super, super dialed up. This is beauty mode turned off, no filters on, just out of box in a 16:9 ratio, and you're taking photos. And to be fair, I think it takes some getting used to. They're overly vibrant, overly bright, even in sort of duller, dark areas, but the quality of the photo and the depth of that photo is good. If you do zoom into some of these photos as well, for example, if you're doing up to 5x zoom, there is a massive loss of quality. I mean, there's a picture here of a castle, and you're losing all the formations of all the brick layout. It looks like a jumbled up mess. So in that sense, it's a bit poor, but on its main lens, just on the 1x or even at the 0.6 at the ultra wide, does a decent job. Actually, in terms of ultra wide, you do see a lot of vignetting along the sides. For example, in this frame here, where we've got some trees and some leaves, you do see some vignetting, but overall the camera experience on the Honor 400 Lite is just as you'd expect. It's a slight uptick on the 200 Lite, but a small upgrade nevertheless. In any upgrade of any phone, there's always going to be some highs and some lows, and the 400 Lite does offer some big overall improvements, such as the 120Hz panel, the design profile, the thinness, the lightness, the inclusion of AI Magic OS 9. In terms of software updates, I believe this one is one that would fall under Honor's new commitment to longer updates. So I believe you'll get anywhere between 3 to 4 years worth of updates on this phone, which is really, really good. But then the downsides, there are a few here. So you get a lot of preloaded apps, 35 plus out of box, not all you can get rid of or you'll want to get rid of. The other part of it is in terms of design changes. Again, it's a small change, but not a big one, which some may see as a downside. And then the cameras as a whole, they may look on paper exactly the same. In fact, the front lens is now 16 megapixels compared to last year's 50 megapixels. And in the rear, there's been housing changes, but no actual massive uptick in the quality. Overall, the experience on the Honor 400 Lite has been very, very good. Much like last year, as soon as we got this phone, I knew right away that I would like this phone because just the way it's set up, the way it's marketed, and just the use cases, and they upgraded it all the right areas, especially things like battery life and AI. And that camera control button on the side, again, is a really, really good addition. With the inclusion of Google Lens, it's kept it super simple, but operationally, you're going to be using it often, of course, when you need to, and you'll get the results exactly as you want. The Honor 400 Lite as a whole, though, is probably the best budget smartphone we've used so far in 2025. And it's a simple and easy recommendation for anyone who's looking for a good budget phone that will do everything they need them to do. But before we go, let us know your thoughts on the Honor 400 Lite. Would you buy this over the other budget phones we reviewed from Redmi, from Poco, for example, or even Realme? Or would you wait and check our review soon for the CMF Phone 2 Pro, as that is roughly the same price as this and is very, very intriguing. Until the next one, as always, we out.